Hey, welcome to Rocked On Detroit Lions Off the Cuff. We're in episode 2 tonight. My name is Will. I'll be your host. I'm with Andy B, my co-host. Andy, say hi to everybody.
Good evening, everybody. Go Lions.
All right, so we're going to get into it tonight. There's been a lot going on leading up to the draft, and we just felt that, maybe there's a need to address a few things that have gone on this week. First and foremost, Jalen Hurts gets a mega deal. Lions fans, some local media sites, they lose their minds. And it never fails that, when another quarterback is getting talked about, for some reason, Jared Goff is getting drugged through the mud, and we just don't understand it. The guy has done nothing but produce and produce at a high level since he's been in the NFL. And he's here in Detroit to do the same thing, and he did last year. We're expecting the same out of him this year. But, immediately they're thinking, they being some Lions fans and some media sites, that Goff was going to get an extension and get paid too much, that the team couldn't afford, to pay Goff an extension and still acquire talent, that the Lions needed to cut bait, draft a rookie right now, get on a cheap contract, or, the fourth thing that, hey, just trade him away. Let's get rid of him. And then, by the way, Lamar Jackson doesn't have a contract. Let's bring him in at 50 plus million a year. 180 plus, million guaranteed. And I'm going to say, whoa, let's hit the brakes. Let's pump it a little bit. Let's wind it back and let's talk about these things and why it makes sense or why they don't make sense. And these points that, we were reading online and in some of the conversations that we had. But first, I'm going to throw it over to Andy. Andy, when you saw a lot of these comments online, what was going through your head? You're a fan of Goff. What were you thinking initially?
Well, I think the issue with a lot of Lions fans right now, first of all, we're not used to this. I don't think we're used to having a GM and a team that looks like it has a good culture and a lot of good direction going forward. That being said, I think because of the fact that this is becoming such a new thing and a positive and a great thing for this organization and this fan base, I think everybody's already expecting maybe a little bit more than what we should have. Like, I know Goff, he doesn't have a lot of flair. He doesn't have that like pizzazz about him like a Joe Burrow or a Patrick Mahomes. But I don't care about that type of stuff. I think Goff, we're fine where we're at. I think he's playing top level. It really bothered me that people have really kind of thrown him to the side as quick as they have when he had a lights out, unbelievable season last year. He was not the issue with this team. I think it is a testing year for him, though. I think 2023, it is going to be a make or break year for Goff. I think if he produces like he did and more, and they go to the playoffs, you need to re-sign him. You need to lock him down long term. But I will say that if he falters and we don't see the Goff that we saw last season, then yeah, I would say you got to reconsider where we're at with Goff. Yes, I'm a big Goff supporter. I'm a big fan. I think it's going to be a great year for him.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more, man. Goff did nothing but produce last season. He's headed into the offseason where he's getting more comfortable with his offense, more comfortable with the playbook that Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell have put together. Right. And they're starting to acquire the talent that they need. And they're going to get Jameson Williams, back to a full season. Hopefully he stays healthy all season. And we get to see even a marginal year out of Jameson. Might be 800, 900, even 1,000 yards this year, which would be exciting to watch. So let's dive right into, the first thing that we saw, which Jared Goff is going to get extended and paid too much. I would say this, based on his statistical category over the last 6 years, Goff is producing at a level that is unmatched, but only matched by a few quarterbacks in the league. He's under contract through 2024. He's got an average annual salary of about $26 million a year. He has a cap charge of about 30.9 this season, which is only 13.7% of the cap. Mm-hmm. So with him being under contract through 2024, there's really no rush for the Lions to extend him. If they were going to extend him, they probably would have done it by now. And they've had these conversations. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell both have come to the podium and said they've had great conversations with Jared Goff and their direction in the offseason and the draft, and that they need to find some talent behind him and fill that room up with some players. So I would expect that they probably had the same conversation about extensions or no extensions at this point. Let's get through the season. If you were to get an extension, are you telling me the guy's not worth $42 to $45 million a year? I think that's the average market for a guy, of his caliber, a quarterback of his caliber that's producing at the level that he is. And even if he were to get 45 million, for the next couple of seasons after his contract runs out, based on where the trajectory of the cap is headed, it's still going to be a marginal increase. We're talking 1% to 2% more coming off the cap for one player. So, based on the information that I've gone through, Goff's worth it. Hands down, the guy's going to produce. And if he produces again at a high level this year, 42 million, 45 million is a bargain for a quarterback with his elite skills. What do you got to say, Andy?
Well, and that's funny you bring that up because I've seen some comments saying that he is a serviceable quarterback, not an elite quarterback. Well, I think he's an elite quarterback because I think when you're in the top 10, you look at the season he had last year, you look at the numbers he put up with his passing yards, his accuracy, 7 interceptions. I mean, those are elite numbers. There's not many quarterbacks that had those kind of numbers. Now, I did overhear someone in a conversation I have say that his stats were eerily similar to Ryan Tannehill. When you look at those 2 seasons, Tannehill and Goff, they were very similar, but the differences are Tannehill could never play at a high level like Goff could. Everyone forgets that Goff went to a Super Bowl. I don't care that he lost. Something was right for that team to go. And I know people will say, well, they chucked him to the side and, traded him and got Stafford. Well, you know what? Anybody would have taken Stafford. I think anybody who knew any better with the kind of quarterback he was. I'm not concerned about this thing with Goff. He deserves the money if he has a season. I have no issue paying him 42 to 45 a year because he's an elite quarterback and he deserves it. And I don't understand why Lions fans are having this big issue with him. I say we trust in Goff, trust in Holmes.
Absolutely. And I mean, to be quite honestly, the floor has been set. Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, they're getting about $40 million a year. Don't quote me. I know I'm pretty close here. So based on what they've been able to do in their career, not even close to what Goff's been able to do. No. And so the floor has been set. I mean, it is what it is. These athletes are going to get paid. Don't worry about the number. Worry about the production. Worry about, what the guy's putting on the table for you. But it's interesting you said Super Bowl. I got into some stats the other night, and I found something really interesting. So 2018, Goff takes the Rams to the Super Bowl, right? That season, he had a 64.9% completion rate, threw for 4,688 yards, 32 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, 101.1 quarterback rating, or passer rating. When you look at last season, 2022 with the Lions, Goff had a Super Bowl season. He had a 65.1% completion average, 4,438 yards, 29 TDs to 7 interceptions with a 99.3 rating, almost a mirror of the 2018 season. So if you're going to tell me that Goff isn't elite, that he can't play at a high level, he did exactly what he did in 2018 and almost did it better. So he was playing at a high level. Last season was not Goff's fault. I mean, every player has a responsibility, but when you're putting up, top 5 numbers for an offense and your defense is allowing every other offense coming into that game to play like a top 5 offense, that was the problem. The Lions had a top 5 offense, but every offense that came into Ford Field or every offense the Lions went to go visit were able to play at a top 5 level too, because the defense was playing in the bottom categories all season long. That can't happen. When you're putting up 26 points, but the opposing offense is putting up 25.2 or whatever the number is, you're not going to win too many games. You're too close. So, this season, the Lions are going to focus on defense. I hope they focus on defense in the draft. And we'll get into that a little bit later too. So let's move on to point number 2. The team can't afford to pay Goff and build the team or talent at the same time. If that were true, not one team in the NFL would be able to pay Jalen Hurts or any other quarterback for that reason and be able to build a team around them. So as stated, earlier, the cap charge percentage is barely going to make a difference if you pay Goff. The Lions currently have the third most cap space in the league at roughly 24.5 million. And they expect to start 2024 with about 65, 68 million after this year's draft class and any potential midseason moves in 2023. Per over the cap, these numbers, for top contracts in the NFL during the NFL season are pretty wild. You've got 17 quarterbacks making 25 to 50 million a year, 33 wide receivers making 10 to 30 million a year, 46 offensive linemen making 10 to 25 million a year, 24 edge rushers making 10 to 28 million a year, and 29 defensive backs making 10 to 21 million a year. That many players, that many starters making that kind of money. I think NFL teams that are smart, that are fiscally responsible, that can manage a cap, that know how to draft and know how to play the game that I call roster roulette, those are the ones that are going to win. So if it were true, no players would get paid. No players would get paid big salaries anyway. And, the goal, like I said earlier, with smart NFL teams is, when they're knocking on the door, they got to get the timing right with the contracts. They have to draft well. They have to structure the contracts in a way that allows them to have fluidity, some options, and the ability to acquire the talent that they need to take the next step. So, again, I just can't see, where people are making this point that, gee, we can't pay him. We're never going to be able to get, the talent. So, Andy, when you saw this, flying out there, what was going through your mind?
Well, I think the same thing because, I want to go back to another, just real quick, back up to a point because I think it leads into my thought here is that, no one thinks we should pay Goff that kind of money because, it'll, like you said, it could blow up the team. It could make it to where we can't pay any other top players to come here because of cap space and whatnot. Well, the Eagles are definitely in a different level when it comes to a lot of teams. But look at Jalen Hurts. We want to compare quarterbacks that went to a Super Bowl and lost. Jalen Hurts went to the Super Bowl this year, lost. Look at the payday he got. So I look at that and I go, Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl and lost, and he got paid, but everybody gets down on him. That was kind of a little bit off the subject, but I had it on my mind for one of the last points you made. But I don't see what paying Goff is going to do at all because of the cap space we have, especially going into next year. And then the draft and everything, it is like you said, it is draft roulette. I'm assuming forgive me if I actually got that wrong. That you said
roster roulette.
Roster roulette. There we go. Okay, apologize. It is roster roulette because you know what? Here's the deal. They could draft some high-end defense this year, which I'm with you. I really hope we go defense heavy this year in the draft. They could go defense heavy. They could pay Goff a lot of money if they do very well this year. They're still going to have room in the cap to pay these players they drafted if they perform as well. There's going to be some pieces that either have to go or stay. I mean, again, look at Jeff Okudah. It wasn't fiscally feasible to keep him on for his fifth-year option, so we cut that salary. Jamal Williams probably was going to ask for too much money, had to let him go, even though the Saints kind of gave him a similar deal anyway. But, I digress. So Brad Holmes, that's the thing. We have to trust Brad Holmes because with everything we have going on, he's playing the game right. He's playing roster roulette essentially to where his chances of basically taking a shot at himself, I think, are down the tube. Is he going to make a mistake here and there with all this? Of course he is. He's not going to get every pick, every signing. It's not going to go all right all the time. But if you look at the moves he's making in this offseason, what he'll probably do next offseason, there's no reason why we couldn't potentially pay Goff a big payday, $42-45 million a year. We'll still have more than enough space to pay players to keep this team competitive because Holmes will do the right thing and cut the players he needs to. And with the culture and his demand for performance, he's going to get rid of players that aren't doing it. That's why he got rid of Okudah. Jamal Williams, yeah, okay, he scored all those touchdowns, but those were all within the red zone, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, so that's how I feel about that situation. Everybody needs to calm down with that.
Absolutely. So I see a few comments have popped in. Jeff Addison, he's a longtime follower on one of our pages. Thanks, Jeff, for giving us a comment. He says, I think Goff will sign an extension by this time next year. I agree. He's going to have a phenomenal season. At least that's the plan. That's the hope. And if he does, you got to pay the guy. I mean, why wouldn't you? Dan Campbell said it best at one of the press conferences. I believe it was during the combine. And he said, it is easier to get worse at quarterback than it is to get better.
100%.
And it makes sense. When I put out the article the other day, I think on Monday, and I tore through all the quarterbacks since 2017. You have about a 30% chance of drafting a quarterback and that quarterback making even a wild card just to lose. It was a pretty daunting experience going through all of the stats and to see how many of them have failed. 7 out of 25 quarterbacks made a playoff. There's only 2. You know what? I should pull that article up. There's only one quarterback that has a better playoff record than Goff since 2017. And that's Patrick Mahomes. I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, overall record. And that's Patrick Mahomes.
What does that tell you, Will?
Yeah. And so there's Patrick Mahomes, there's Allen that have a better playoff record, right? And Joe Burrow, of course. But when you really break everything down, you're taking such a high risk by drafting a rookie that has to come in and learn everything and get through a first NFL season with 0 time off. The hardest transition is your rookie season. And then learning the game speed. I mean, it's incredible where you're on a field with college athletes that are superior athletes, but then take the best of the best and go put them all in one field. The game just went up 10 notches. So, all right, we'll move on to the third point here after we get to a couple more comments. So Alan Gantz, thanks Alan Gantz. He says he totally agrees that Goff will sign that extension. We agree too. And then Wolfpack GIF, there's a new one. Good point. Look at D-Hop. You thinking D-Hop's going to join the Lions? That's interesting. Or maybe that's not what he's saying. Maybe that's not what he's saying. All right, so the third point. Lions need to draft a rookie quarterback, like we were just touching on. And this is where these stats got nuts. You want a cheap contract. That's really not the truth anymore. I mean, when you draft a rookie in the top 5, you're going to pay him $40 million, and then you have a 5th-year option. And that 5th-year option is the average, I believe, of the top 5 or top 10. I think it's top 5 salaries for quarterbacks. So you pay him 40 for the first 4. You're going to pay him 40, 45, 50 for one season. So you're going to pay him roughly $90 million in 5 seasons, which is about $18 to $20 million a year. Well, let me dive into some of these. This is some of the stats that I was just sharing just a minute ago. So per StatMuse, only 30% of 10 rookie quarterbacks drafted in the first round since 2020 have made the playoffs, with an overall record of 6-4. But guess who owns that record, or most of that record? Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, since 2020, has gone 5-2 with the Bengals. So that leaves Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, who both made the playoffs in their third and their second season, only to lose. I think Lawrence won this past season. He won the first one, lost the divisional game. But I mean, look at the stat. I mean, 30%, 3 out of 10 rookie quarterbacks making a playoff to lose. Tua, Jordan Love, who hasn't played, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Kenny Pickett. None of them have made the playoffs yet since 2020. So let's go back to 2017 if you want to break it down even further. The stats really didn't change. Since 2017, 7 out of 22 rookie quarterbacks, or quarterbacks drafted in the first round, took at least 2 seasons before they made a playoff game. And 85%, so 6 out of 7, lost in their first playoff appearance. Okay. So only one quarterback made the wild card in their first season, which was Lamar Jackson. 3 others took at least 3 or 4 seasons to make it to a wild card. Totally, they had a combined record of 2-3. Mayfield, Murray, and Jones. There are 7 quarterbacks since 2017 who are no longer in the NFL or have a starting job. So what has Goff done? Let me throw it back to you, Andy B. When you hear that, does that make you want to draft a rookie at 6?
Not at all.
What about 18?
No. I honestly, if I'm going to go for a quarterback, see, here's the thing. If anybody knows this or not, the Lions have an offer on the table for Teddy Bridgewater. I say you sign Teddy because he is a decent, effective, nice quarterback. I think he can carry the team if Goff were to go down. Let's all hope Goff doesn't go down. But at least Teddy Bridgewater's there as an option. because Sudfeld is not a good option that we have right now. That's why that needs to be taken care of. I am still going to stand by what I've said, Will. You and I have talked about this time and time again. Our picks in the first round have to be defense heavy because we're almost there with the defense we need. Our defensive backs are good. I would actually take one more. Will Anderson, he might be a pipe dream, but for me, if he's available at 6, I say you take him. Jalen Carter, I'm 50-50, but I know he had a workout. I know Brad Holmes went about had a press conference about it. They said there was some stuff that they liked about him. I would still take Will Anderson. So this thing with a rookie quarterback, if you're going to take a quarterback in this draft, I think you go – I'll tell you the truth. I think you go third round. There's no reason why you can't get a decent quarterback in the third round. I mean, heck, look at Tom Brady was picked in the 6th round, and look what that got the Patriots. So you can still find good talent. You don't always have to go the first round. I still say if I'm Brad Holmes, I'm not taking a quarterback in the first round with those 2 picks. I'm just not doing it.
I'm going to wind you back on the Tom Brady comment because he's a unicorn. They don't exist. He was in the Belichick, offense.
True.
Belichick created that monster, but Brady did his job too. That just doesn't exist anymore. No, but you can find some value later. I hear what you're saying though. Yes.
And I know you're right, but I also now I'm going to backpedal real quick to the point you made about the Belichick system, because then Brady went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers system, the Bruce Arians system. He was able to pull it. I mean, it was only once, but he was able to do it there.
Yeah, they loaded up. They loaded up for Brady to go in and pick apart, everybody in the NFL. They loaded up.
But did they really?
Yeah, they did. They had a pretty damn good defense.
They did. They had a good defense, and they got Gronk, and everybody needs to stop calling them the Tampa Bay Patriots because that's not what they were. But I digress.
Or the Los Angeles Lions.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what Jared Goff has done since he's been in the league. So we just went through those rookies, right? Mm-hmm. All the way back to 2017. So Goff was drafted first overall in 2016. He got his start in the final 7 games of that season. Did not go well. They had a terrible first season. A lot of things going wrong with that Rams team in 2017. But then they get a bounce back Super Bowl berth in 2018. I mean, how do you go from losing every single game in 2017, drafted in 16, got his start in 17, the last 7 games. 2018, they go to the Super Bowl. And then again, they go to the playoffs in 2020. He left the Rams with a combined, 3-3 record with 1 Super Bowl appearance, only in 4.5 seasons. Okay. There's only 2 quarterbacks drafted in the first round since 2016 to start in a Super Bowl other than Goff. And that's Joe Burrow and Mr. Patrick Mahomes, first ballot Hall of Famer. There were only 2 quarterbacks other than Goff drafted in the first round since 2016, Paxton Lynch and Carson Wentz. Okay. Out of 25 quarterbacks taken since 2016, only 3 have a better playoff record: Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen. And only 1 has a better overall win record, and that's Mahomes. So you're putting Goff, since 2016, he's a top 5 quarterback statistically. Okay. And his playoff record's there. He's got the experience. He knows what it takes to get there. He's not going to be humbled, if you will, when he makes the playoffs. He knows what it takes to get there and how to win. All right. So we got another comment here by Jeff Addison. I think we have a chance to get Trey Lance. Holmes tried to get him before, and the 49ers will either stick with Purdy or trade for Cousins, in my opinion. That's a nice call out there. I like that one.
I honestly, you know what, Jeff? Thanks for the comment too. I actually have no issue with that. The only issue I would have is what would the Lions be willing or what they would have to give up to get him. But if Trey Lance were to come in as a backup, it's a roll of the dice because we still don't even know what he's really capable of because the poor guy's had the unfortunate couple last seasons with San Francisco. But I agree with my compatriot Will here. I'd have no issue taking Trey Lance as a backup. I think it could be a good. I think it could be a good addition.
Yeah, with Jeff there.
Absolutely.
So then we got Wolfpack Giff here. He says, I think you could get DTR in the 3rd round if the Lions want to get a quarterback. Remind me, who's DTR? I don't know the acronym here for DTR. It's not ringing a bell right now. I'm sure it'll makes sense once you pull it up. But all right, so getting back to what Jared Goff has done, I mean, the guy, he's played well. He's played well in every season. And based on the evidence and his success rate, I felt like that pretty much drove my point the other day that, if you want to take a rookie and gamble, it's going to take you at least 2 seasons. You didn't bring Ben Johnson back this year to start a rookie to have Ben Johnson leave potentially next year for a head coaching job. They're going all in. They're going to do whatever they have to do to try to win this year, and definitely want to win by 2024, I would assume, when we have the draft in our hometown. Point 4, which I really am sick of hearing about Lamar Jackson coming to Detroit, but you want to trade Goff away and bring in Lamar. All right. What does that do for us? So Goff's under contract for $26 million a year for two more seasons. $52 million going out to one quarterback to play 2 seasons, or $50 million going to one quarterback to play 1 season. I think I'm going to bet on having 2 seasons with one quarterback. Then it would only make sense to draft a rookie if you really wanted to bring in Lamar, but I wouldn't do it in 2023. This quarterback class, I'm sorry, I'm not sold on it at all. There's maybe one quarterback that I like, and if he wasn't injured, I feel like he would have been a top 5 overall quarterback in Hendon Hooker. Yes, he's a little bit older. The ACL issue doesn't bother me, but he also played 5 seasons of college ball, so that's why he's a little bit older. A lot of the other prospects only played 2 seasons. I just don't see a polished quarterback coming out of this class. I think that they're all going to need some work. So this one is just a real head scratcher to me. I didn't really understand it. Like I said, Goff is well-versed in Ben Johnson's offense. They have continuity with the team. He's been very durable, very reliable. Lamar has missed about 25% of his games throughout his career. Goff, I think, has missed a couple. It just doesn't make sense to me. The offensive scheme is geared towards Goff and what they have on this Lions team. Lamar, you would have to scrap or implement a lot of new plays, a different type of scheme. He's a running quarterback, whereas Goff is a pure pocket passer. So that's what we had to dive into first tonight. So give me your thoughts on Lamar Jackson. I already know what you're going to say, but fire away, Andy B.
Sometimes I wish you didn't give me the floor. I need to put this to bed right now about Lamar. He's a decent quarterback. He's not horrible. He is not elite. He had 1 MVP season. 1. And that was what, Will? 2019, I believe? I believe that was 2019.
Yep,
he had
was.
Yes, he had his MVP season in 2019. We're a few seasons gone from that now. Secondly, last season, I know this is a mixed bag of opinions, but here's mine. He quit on his team. He quit on them when they needed him the most. This game he was playing with the agent thing, having his mother, then himself, and then we all know the story about some random guy that's not even official with the NFLPA. Those kind of games he's playing, and I'm sorry, a guaranteed contract that he wants. What were we talking about? 5 years, $250 million, fully guaranteed. You're not worth it.
He was given was it 5 years, $200 million fully guaranteed,
and he didn't take it.
And he didn't take it. He had it on the table last season, and he turned it down thinking he was going to get more. I mean, now the floor has been set with Jalen Hurts again.
Well, and Deshaun Watson too.
Well, the whole Deshaun Watson thing, that contract doesn't make a bit of sense to me.
I know that, but it set a bar though, Will, and it did. It did set a bar for what we're doing here.
Yeah, they're going to unwind it though. That's what they're trying to do right now. Is they're trying to unwind that deal. Yeah.
But let me get one last thing about Lamar on top of everything else. This is my biggest one of all. Is that this has been an argument. I've seen it on our Facebook pages. I've talked to other Detroit fans where I've for as happy as us Lions fans are that we're seeing, I still see some contention among us too about this thing with Lamar. Here's my biggest issue with Lamar. People can't answer this question. I wish somebody would. If he's as good as some of these people or some of the individuals I've talked to about this situation, if he's this good, how come 31 other teams have not lined up begging him to play for them? And on top of that, I have never seen in my life as an NFL fan more general managers or head coaches go to a podium making it clear that they have no interest in him.
Right.
I've never seen that. So I myself, I wish we would all put this Lamar thing to rest. You're going to set us back. There's no reason to give him a fully guaranteed deal. And he's not a dual threat quarterback. He's a running quarterback, which at that point, I compare him to a running back. He's not going to have a good shelf life. You don't pay running backs, which means you don't pay a running quarterback. There, I'm done. I'm sorry. I knew that was going to get me going.
No, it's a good take. I mean, you bring up some interesting points that, and I'll recap it for you. No one is coming to his defense as a teammate. No one is coming to rescue him from, as an NFL team GM, to say, hey, here's a contract, come play for us. Nobody wants to give up 2 first rounds for Lamar Jackson.
No.
And it is what it is. So can we please stop talking about it? If Brad Holmes felt like it was such a good deal and he was the saving grace for this Lions team, he would have already been here because we had the money. We still have the money, and they can make the money happen no matter what. And by we, I mean the Lions. So something else that we wanted. Yeah, go for it.
Just real quick, one more point, and I'll keep it real short. One other thing, too, what I fear is going to happen, though, if we don't take a quarterback, which a lot of fans have been real hell-bent about, and if we go into 2023 and the expectations are bad and Goff has a bad year, you know exactly what the saying's going to be. We should have taken Lamar. We should have signed him, blah, blah, blah. I hope it doesn't happen, but I have a fear that it will. So I apologize.
Hindsight's always 20/20,
Absolutely.
and coulda, shoulda, wouldas, they don't count. So
no.
Let's put it all out on the field. All right. So the second half of our show tonight. First, we wanted to remind you guys, next Thursday is the NFL draft. First round starts at 8 p.m. We're going to have a NFL live draft show starting at 7 p.m. So an hour before the draft. We're going to go all night until the last pick is done. Our goal is to talk a little bit before about the prospects that we feel are going to fit the Lions, the best prospects in the draft that we feel should go in the first round. And then as the picks are going on, we're going to give you guys a little bit of information about each pick and how they fit that team. The great thing is for all of you that want to join us, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, get our notifications, send it out to your friends. We're going to be giving away a few mystery bags for the people that come into our feed and leave us a comment. We're going to put some numbers in a hat, and that number comment, when it gets picked, that's who's going to win the mystery bag. So we're going to keep it random. We're not going to pick favorites. All right, moving on. Second half of the show is, who do the Lions need? Lions going to draft. We're going to be real brief because we're going to save a lot of next week. But I want some stats. I think this is why the Lions have to go defensive heavy. So last season, the Lions had an average total points per game of 26.6. That meant their offense was putting up 26.6 points. The opponent was putting up 25.2. Like I said earlier, you cannot win games in the NFL if you're allowing teams to score more than 20 points. I believe it was Glover Quinn that said it best when he said 18. 18 is the number. You want to keep them under. So 17 is the cap. If you can keep them under 17 points, you got a better chance to win. It's hard to score 3 touchdowns in the NFL. But if you're letting teams do it routinely every single game, you're putting all of that work on the offense to battle that much harder, and then the defense can't get off the field. So that's got to change this season. Total points. It's kind of scary that these are almost mirror images of each other. The Lions put up 453 points last season. Their opponent put up 427. So like I said earlier, the Lions were a top 5 offense, but the defense of the Lions made every other offense in the NFL look like a top 5 offense too. That can't happen this season. The Lions scored 54 touchdowns. Their opponents scored 51. So I think you know where I'm going, but this next one is just too close. The Lions put up 376 first downs. Their opponents 377. In a way, the stats go, they're mirror images of each other. We're talking less than a few percent difference. They were playing it that tight last season. The Lions had some good wins. They had some great leads. They also gave up some leads. So that's why we feel that the Lions are going to go defense heavy in this 2023 NFL draft. So who do they need? Andy, I'll kick it over to you for a second. Who's your favorite prospect this year coming? Just one favorite guy that you really want to see join this Lions team.
I want to see Will Anderson. I want to see another defensive end, but um, see, I'm kind of a mixed bag on that one because I know the Lions. I think if you put another edge rusher on the other side of Aiden, I think if Aiden clears up his game a little bit, he was a little inconsistent last year. I don't think he did horrible. I thought he was good. Um, I think if Aiden steps up his game, you put Will Anderson on the other side. That's going to be a killer duo. We really need. Excuse me. Sorry. We really need someone that can. We need another run stopper on the interior. I think. Because that was
So
something that Aiden struggled with.
So is
Go
Will
ahead.
Anderson? Is Will Anderson your choice? That's the number one prospect you want to see.
That's my number one prospect. If I had to pick someone else, I'd go Mozzie Smith.
Okay. So we're aligned on the Mozzie Smith, and I like Will Anderson. I just feel like there's better value down the line. So for the Lions to be successful this season, they have to stop a few things. One, they have to stop the pass. Brad Holmes addressed that in the offseason by totally revamping the backfield. They brought in Mosley, Sutton, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They ended up letting Okudah go. They didn't want to pick up his fifth-year option. He was too expensive at $5.5 million and $10 million cap hit this last season to ride the bench or be fourth or fifth fiddle. So a good move by Holmes. So for that reason, I think they did a good job addressing, the passing game. But man, did they bleed in the run game. And so like you said earlier, they really got to stop the run, which means they're going to have to get more stout up the middle, whether that's a better linebacker, a defensive tackle, an edge rusher getting to the quarterback quicker. Something's got to happen. But the Lions, they bled through the middle in the rushing game the entire season. And I hate to say it because I said it all last season. When I watched the first 8 games, again, Aiden Hutchinson, he got upfield too quick. He got outside, too often, too outside of his zone. He missed some gap assignments at times. He was getting gashed for about 700 of the first 1,000 yards, coming off his edge or his gap assignment. Right. He wasn't the only one responsible for it, but that area was getting just tore apart. So strengthening that side of the defense almost makes sense to me.
Yes.
With a defensive tackle. So defensive player needs. The Lions could really use a major upgrade at the defensive tackle position. Behind McNeil and Buggs, who do we have? We don't really have much top-tier talent. I wouldn't say that McNeil or Buggs are really top-tier talent. Now, McNeil has taken a different offseason approach. He's slimmed down. He's gotten a little bit more slippery. He's able to bend. He's more flexible. He's leaned out a little bit. So he's going to be a different player this season. Buggs, he has his moments. But Levi, we don't even know if he's going to make it to week 1. There was a good report that came out last week that he was progressing well, and he was taking part of some off-season workouts. But behind them, Demetrius Taylor and Benito Jones, they're just not top-tier talent that I would rest my hat on should McNeil or Buggs go down. So with that being the case, unless the Lions have aspirations at really taking Jalen Carter, and if he's off the board before pick 6, I would expect the Lions to pivot here. If Anderson is gone and Carter is gone, and the Lions are at 6, I expect the Lions to pivot and potentially trade back. And the reason why is because then they're not going to be taking an edge rusher or a defensive tackle with that first pick. They will get more value somewhere else. It also depends on what happens with the quarterbacks. If only 2 quarterbacks go in the top 5, someone's probably going to want to trade up. Which gives the Lions an option to trade back. I'd like to see them stay in the top 12 so they can still get, one of their top picks that I think that would be great for the Lions. But a trade back from pick to 18 with the Saints or from 18 to 29 with the Saints is also another option. I expect the Lions to draft a defensive tackle within the first 5 picks for sure. Probably the first 3 picks. But we'll see. So if the Lions are able to gain Mozzie Smith, in my opinion, Mozzie's going to be a hot item between pick 25 and 32. So they've got to make something happen. You're either going to reach at 18 for a dynamic player if you feel fits everything that you need him to fit. He fits your culture. He fits your team. He fits your needs. He definitely has the talent. He's on the freaks list for a reason. Take him at 18. The Lions want to get better. They want to grab 2 impact players this season. So if Mozzie's that guy, it doesn't matter where you pick him. Pick him at 6 if you felt that highly about him. It doesn't matter. If he comes in and crushes it, you won't care where he was picked. The only thing you're going to care about is his salary later. So, in my opinion, Mozzie is a can't-miss prospect this season. I'm not a U of M guy. Everybody knows that. So for me to be high on a U of M player says a lot, right? But he's a can't-miss prospect, man. He's going to be dominant in the NFL, and I feel like he might have the potential to be the most dominant defensive tackle in this draft class. I've watched a lot of tape on him. I feel like he's just really going to get out and push the pocket for us. So with that said, who would be your next favorite player for the Detroit Lions this season in this draft?
Well, for me, I think I might have to go. God, I don't know. There's so many to choose from, but God.
Would you take corner at 6 if you're stuck at 6?
I wouldn't have a problem taking a corner. I mean, I think, honestly, I'm not going to say we're corner heavy. I think we got some good pickups in the draft. Not the draft, I'm sorry, free agency this year. But I wouldn't be against taking one more for depth. So cornerbacks, I would not have an issue with. I just don't know who I would take, though, because I think there's some pretty decent talent with the cornerbacks this year. But personally, I think I like Gervon Dexter. I know he's back like during day 2, but I like him. I like Kobe Turner. Those are just a few I have in my mind. But, I mean, I wouldn't take a running back, obviously, because we're already good in the running back department. Interested to see what's going to happen with DeAndre Swift, to be honest with you. I hope he can stay healthy.
You don't think we'll take a running back?
I don't think so, because
I wasn't going to get into offense tonight.
No,
and we probably should. Let's wait till Thursday to get into some offense. So let me wrap up the defensive tackle here. If the Lions are picking at 6 and they're going to take a defensive tackle, and Jalen Carter's gone, there's no other defensive tackle to take. You're not gonna reach at 6. So that's why I feel like the Lions are going to trade back. Or day 2, they take somebody like AA from Northwestern, Adebawore. He's slightly undersized, but he offers a lot of flexibility. He can play inside and out.
I like him.
You can put him on the edge. He can definitely tear it up on the edge with his size. Like you said, day 2, Gervon Dexter. I've watched Gervon rise from a 5th round in December all the way up to a day 2 guy, as high as a 2nd round. When I watched Carter, Smith, Anderson, Byron, Dexter, Turner. I've watched them all side by side multiple times. I don't see much difference between a Mozzie Smith and a Jalen Carter, other than I see Mozzie Smith gets off the ball a little bit faster. I see Mozzie Smith seems to have longer arms and is able to take on a double team and wrap up a running back running through the lane. Carter's a big guy. I have questions on his character. I have questions on his moral compass, and if he's really going to take being a pro the way a pro should. Is he going to show up and be ready at every practice, at every meeting, for every game? You can't just show up on game day and missing 40% of your, or only playing 40% of your snaps and missing multiple games throughout his career at Georgia. That tells me that he's not ready. It tells me that he's not committed. And you land on a team like the Detroit Lions, you're going to get called out in a hurry.
Oh, absolutely.
And that stank doesn't wash off in a Dan Campbell locker room. Is it a locker room that could probably mortar into a great player? Probably. And Campbell said it best. They could take a risk on one guy, but not 2. And Kobe Turner, he's a very interesting prospect out of Wake Forest. Probably 4th round guy, might sneak into the 3rd. But again, those are those later round gems that if Brad Holmes does his homework right, he'll find them. And we already know that he does his homework right. Getting into cornerback. According to ESPN, the Lions, this is funny. They have Mosley backing up Sutton at the left cornerback spot, which puts Chase Lucas at the starting right corner. I don't think that's going to happen. I can't imagine that happening this season for the Lions. But let's say that it does. If that's really how it shakes out, the Lions have to take a cornerback early. So again, Anderson and Carter are gone before 6. You can't trade back for whatever reason. Devin Witherspoon is my man. He is my number one cornerback in this draft. He has been since December. I watched him rise from the 9th rated cornerback all the way up to number 1. And I think that the more people were watching tape and they came across Devin Witherspoon, they finally realized he's the guy. I'd be happy with Christian Gonzalez too. But I like Witherspoon because he played with Kirby Joseph. They had the continuity. They already understand how each other plays in the backfield. And those types of relationships are very difficult to make. So Deontay Banks, he's, a second day or a late first round. Emmanuel Forbes, again, he's a late first round, second day type of corner. I feel the Lions are definitely going to take a corner here. You've got to shore up the next 4 to 5 seasons. They don't have anybody next year other than Sutton and Chase Lucas, and that's just not enough. Not to say that they won't re-sign Mosley or somebody else, but they don't have enough right now. Linebacker is another major need for this Lions team. If they're going to stop the run, if they're going to, squash out those intermediate routes and handle those tight ends, they need somebody like a Nolan Smith, Jack Campbell, Derek Hall, all of which can be taken first, second, maybe early third round. Nolan Smith, 18 for sure. Jack Campbell, maybe get him at, in the 40s, maybe. Derek Hall, you're probably going to have to take him at 55. He won't be there at 81, I don't think. On the edge, Tyree Wilson. Lions are high in Wilson. I like Wilson. Or Miles Murphy at 18, either one. If you took Tyree Wilson at 6, I probably wouldn't be mad. I think he'd be reaching, but I wouldn't be mad. But then I really like a Will McDonald on day 2, early. So the way I see Holmes doing this and what he's shown us the last 3 seasons is simple. He's going to go and find the players that fit the team, that fit the culture, that might fit the need, may not fit the need this year, but will fit a need. If they're playmakers, they'll find a way to put them in the game. You play to win the game, right? Famous words. You play to win the game. Holmes is playing chess right now to win the game at a higher level than I've ever seen from a GM, definitely in Detroit, but if not the entire league. I mean, the guy is pulling rabbits out of hats every other week. And starting off, the draft with just as much capital now that we started with at free agency tells you the guy's doing something right. So those are my prospects. Those are my 4 positions that I feel the Lions need to address early: defensive tackle, cornerback, linebacker, and edge, in no certain order. If the Lions get 2 impact players at those positions, we're moving towards a top 15 defense. And if they can work together and get us into a top 10 defense, I don't see why we can't win the division. So take it away on final thoughts, Andy. What do you got to say on tonight?
Well, we will win the division this upcoming season. I'm very, very confident of it. I'd be willing to bet. I think I said this to you once, Will, or maybe it was someone else, but I was willing to bet $100 that the Lions would at least make it to the second round of the playoffs. I think they're fully capable of it. And the biggest thing is I think you shore up this defense, just get those needs that we need, and I think we'll be just fine. I'm not worried about the offense at all. I know we weren't going to touch on it, but, when it comes to offensive needs, I don't really know that I would maybe take any of these positions. We're wide receiver heavy. I'm sorry, I don't like any. I don't think you take a running back, guards, and tight ends. I think we're fine. I see Jeff Addison said that a tight end is something we should explore. But I'm not. We have Brock Wright. I didn't think he did too bad. Heck, we even threw to Penei Sewell. That could maybe work again. Who knows? That's my thoughts. Right. I think we need to go defense heavy, and we're going to be just fine this year.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. No matter what happens, Holmes is going to make the right decisions. That front office has come very, very far from 2020. They scrapped everything down to the studs, and they rebuilt everything from the inside, bringing in the right people, and it shows. And like you said in the beginning of the show, Lions fans are not used to this.
No.
but they better start getting used to it. No more Solf. I took the word Solf, SOLF, from I think Joe Chapp is the one that said it. Same old Lions fans. We can't have same old anymore, guys. We've got to move on. We've got to bury it. We've got to look to the future. I know it was only one season of hope last season, but it's a season to build upon. So let's build together. So don't forget, next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to run this again. We'll be a little bit more organized. I'm still recovering from surgery. Throat's kind of giving out. I'm about done for the night. And we had some fun tonight. So next Thursday, 7 p.m., all of your links, hit the notification bell so you get the notifications. Subscribe to the link tree that's in the bio there for the show. And we'll see you next week. Engage with us in the comments. Go to the pages. Tell us what you think. Maybe we do some mock drafts this week. But either way, man, one pride. Have a great night. We'll see y'all next week, 7 p.m. Thursday night.
Have a great evening, everyone.